So for you all in Cobble, you can either type it and send it to me or handwrite the answers. That is absolutely fine too. And I will send you a screenshot, hi, through the Teams chat so that you can have it a little bit more clearly than just on my shared screen. Okay. Right. We're on page 580.
For when?
I'm sorry, what?
If we handwrite the answer, so when we should send them for you?
When you can turn it in, why don't we say by Monday when we have our next class? So we don't have this class tomorrow, but we do have the Friday morning class with you guys tomorrow. And I think they're going to be doing some work on writing and clauses. So some grammar and punctuation work tomorrow for class, live for you guys. But this class won't meet again until Monday morning. So you'll have time, to work on it. And we'll have time in class today to work on it too, because it won't take me the hour to finish reading, I don't think. And that way you can ask me questions if you're confused about any of the answers to the and it's a little bit, and I'll try and get more of the story to you because it's a little hard to answer questions just from listening. So we're going to do our best. Okay, you guys ready? Yeah. 580. All right. Late one afternoon, baby Gwen and I were sitting on the porch swing talking to Fielding, right? The story's about Lily from Indiana who's gone to stay with her cousin for the summer. I think Hamid is a little behind, and we think that Lily's around 13 years old, right? And she's very good at lying. Okay, late one afternoon, baby Gwen and I were sitting on the porch swing talking to Fielding. It was one of those days in August when you can smell autumn in the air, a feeling of change coming over the world. I had wanted bridge that afternoon. I had made 7 hearts doubled and redoubled with Fielding looking over my shoulder, and I was filled with a sense of power. Right? She's doing well on her card game. Let's go swimming tomorrow, I said. They'll be closing the pool soon, and I need to practice my strokes. Let's go to the lake, Fielding said. I haven't made my summer swim across the lake. I was waiting for Russell to get home, but I don't guess he'll be back in time, so I might as well go on and swim it myself. I'll swim with you, I heard myself saying. I'm a junior Red Cross lifesaver. I can swim forever. You couldn't swim this, he said. It's 5 miles. I can swim a lot further than that, I said. I practically taught swimming at camp. I never get tired. What about your condition? That's all right, I said. Exercise is good for me. I'm supposed to go swimming all I can. The doctor said it was the best thing I could do. Baby Gwen looked puzzled. You can't swim all the way across the lake without a boat. She said girls don't ever swim across the lake. I can swim it, I said. I've been further than that at camp lots of times. What time do you want to go, Fielding? By the time he came to pick us up the next morning, I had calmed baby Gwen down and convinced her there was nothing to worry about. I really was a good swimmer. Swimming was of no importance to me one way or the other. What mattered to me was that a boy of my own choosing, a first-rate boy, was coming to take me somewhere. Not coming for baby Gwen and not taking me along to be nice, but coming for me. I had been awake since dawn, deciding what to wear. I finally settled on my old green Jansen and a white blouse from Big Gwen's wardrobe. The blouse had little shoulder pads and big chunky buttons and fell across my shoulders and arms in soft pleats. I wasn't worried at all about swimming the lake. The only thing that worried me was whether the blouse was long enough to cover my stomach. Baby Gwen went with us. As soon as we left the shore, she was supposed to drive around to the other side and watch for us. All the way out to the lake, she sat beside me, looking worried. You ought to have a boat going along beside you, she said. We don't need a boat, I said. I'm a junior Red Cross lifesaver. I can swim all day if I want. It's okay, Fielding said. Russell and I do it every summer. By the time we got to the lake, I felt like I could swim the Atlantic Ocean. The sun was brilliant on the blue water. And as soon as Fielding stopped the car, I jumped out and ran down to the shore and looked out across the water to the pine trees on the far shore. It didn't look so far away, only very blue and deep and mysterious. I took off my blouse and shoes and waded out into the water. How clean it felt, how cool. I put my face down and touched my cheek to the water. I felt the water across my legs and stomach. My body felt wonderful and light in the water. I rose up on my toes and my legs felt strong and tall. I pulled on my stomach until my ribs stuck out. I was beautiful. I was perfect. I began to throw handfuls of water up into the air. The water caught in the sunlight and fell back all around me. I threw more into the air and it fell all around me, falling in pieces of steel and glass and diamonds falling all around me. I called out, "Come on, Fielding. Either we're swimming across this lake or we're not." "Wait," he called back, "wait up." When he was beside me in the water and I felt his hands around my waist and the pressure of his knee against my thigh. "Let's go then," he said in a low, sweet voice. "Let's do this together." Then we began to swim out, headed for the stand of pine and oak and cypress on the far shore. The time passed as if in a dream. My arms moved easily, taking turns pulling the soft, yielding water alongside my body. I was counting out the strokes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Over and over in the good old-fashioned Australian crawl. Every now and then, Fielding would touch my arm and we would roll over on our backs and rest for a few minutes, checking our position. Then we would swim for a while on our sides, resting. There were long banks of clouds on the horizon and far overhead, a great hawk circling like a black planet. Every time I looked up, he was there. We swam for what seemed to be a long, long time, but whenever I looked ahead, the trees on the shore never seemed to come any closer. "Are you sure you're going in a straight line?" I said when we turned over to rest for a moment. "I think so," Fielding said. "The current might be pulling us a little to the left. There's nothing we can do about it now anyway." Do you want to borrow mine? Oops. My sad falling apart book. Okay. Why? I said. "Why can't we do anything about it?" "Well, we can't go back," he said. "We're past the point of no return." The point of no return, I said to myself. Maybe we would die out here and they would change the name of the lake in honor of us. Lake Lely, Lake Leland Louise Arnold, Lover's Lake. "Don't worry about it then," I said. "Just keep on swimming." Perhaps an hour went by, perhaps 2. The sun was hot on the water, and every now and then a breeze blew up. Once a barge carrying logs to the sawmill passed us without noticing us. We treaded water while it passed and then rocked in the wake for several minutes. They had passed us as though we didn't exist. After the barge went by, we began to swim with more determination. I was beginning to feel cold, but it didn't seem to really matter. Nothing mattered but this boy and the sun and the clouds and the great hawk circling and the water touching me everywhere. I put down my head and began to count with renewed vigor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. "Lily," Fielding called out. "Lily, put your feet down. Put your feet down, Lily." I looked up and he was standing a few feet away, holding his hands up in the air. I let my feet drop and my toes touched the cool, flat sand. We were on a sandbar. Then we were laughing and hugging, holding on to each other and moving toward the shore where baby Gwen stood calling and calling to us. It was wonderful, 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 wonderful. I was wonderful. I was dazzling. I was Lily Arnold, the wildest girl in the Mississippi Delta, the girl who swam Lake Jefferson without a boat or a life vest. I was Lily, the girl who would do anything. All the way home in the car, Fielding kept his arm around me while he drove, and baby Gwen fed me little pieces of picnic lunch. And I was happier than I had ever been in my life, and I might have stayed that way forever. But when we got home, there was a message saying that my parents were on their way to Clarksville to take me home. My parents. I'd forgotten they existed. My father had gotten lonely and driven to New Orleans and talked my mother into coming home. Later that afternoon, they arrived. It seemed strange to see our Buick pulling up in baby Gwen's driveway. My father got out looking very young, and my mother was holding onto his arm. She looked like a stranger, thin and beautiful, in a black cotton peasant dress with rows of colored rickrack around the hem and sleeves. Her hair was cut short and curled around her face in ringlets. I was almost afraid to touch her. Then she ran for my father's side and grabbed me in her arms and whirled me around and around, and I smelled the delicate perfume on her skin, and it made me feel like crying. When she put me down, I turned to my father. "I'm not going home," I said, putting my hand on my hips. "Oh, yes, you are," he said. So I went upstairs and began to pack my clothes. Baby Gwen followed me up the stairs. "You can have the kimono," she said. "I want you to have it." She folded it carefully and packed it with tissue paper in a box from Nell's and Blum's and put it beside my suitcase. "Come sit by me, Baby Gwen, and tell me the news," my mother said, and Baby Gwen went over and sat by her on the chaise. My mother put her arms around her and began to talk in a bright voice, inviting her to spend Christmas with us in Indiana. "It will snow for sure," my mother said, "and Lily can show you the snow." We left Clarksville early that next morning. Baby Gwen stood in the doorway, waving goodbye. She was wearing a pink satin robe stained in places where she had sweated in it during hot nights of July, and her little nipples stuck out beneath the soft material. I kept hoping maybe Fielding had gotten up early to come and tell me goodbye, but he didn't make it. "I'll fix those hems when she comes to visit," my mother said, "and do something about that perfume." I was too tired to argue. All the way to Indiana, I slumped in the back seat eating potato chips and sneaking smokes in filling station restrooms when we stopped for gas. Then it was another morning, and I woke up in my old room and put on my shorts and rode my bicycle over to Cynthia Carver's house. She was in the basement doing her Saturday morning ironing. Cynthia hated to iron. How many mornings had I sat on those basement steps, watching the forlorn look on her face while she finished her 7 blouses? "So I might as well be dead," I said, taking a bite of cookie. "So anyway, I wish I was dead," I repeated as Cynthia hung a blouse on the hanger and started on the dirndl skirt. "Here I am, practically engaged to this rich plantation owner's son, Fielding Reed, Lily Reed. So anyway, my mother and father come and drag me home practically the same day we fell in love. I don't know how they got wind of it unless that damn Serena called and told them. She was always watching everything I did. Anyway, they dragged me home, and I bet they won't even let me write to me." "What's that perfume?" Cynthia said, lifting her eyes from the waistband of the skirt. "That's my signature," I said. "That's what I wear now. Tigress in the winter and Aphrodisia in the summer." That's what this writer's wife always wore. She got pneumonia or something from swimming in the winter and died when she was real young. Everyone in Clarksville thinks I'm just like her. She was from Mississippi or something. I think she's sort of my father's cousin. Cynthia pulled the dirndl off the ironing board and began on a pair of pedal pushers. I leaned back on the chairs, watching the steam from the pedal pushers light up the space over Cynthia Carver's disgruntled Yankee head. I was dreaming of the lake, trying to remember how the water turned into diamonds in my hands. Okay. Oof. Like that story? Poor Lily had to go back to Indiana. Yeah. So here's the question. If we consider this a transformation story, right? Did she transform? Yes? Okay. Tell me why you think she transformed, or in what way is she different? Yeah, she's copying. She's taking.
Teacher, can you hear me?
I can.
Teacher, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me back?
Yeah, actually, teacher, I think that Lily Arnold's life is somehow amazing because she loves being
in a swim bath, and for that reason she was too eager to escape from Indiana because she loved the sea and she wanted to be with her friends, I think. Yeah.
Yes, I think you're right. Anybody else want to comment? So Paula was here in class. Paula was saying that because she is wearing the perfume back in Indiana that was given to her by Baby Gwen, that it shows some degree of transformation too, right? She's kept some part of herself that was, that she had created, right, in Mississippi when she went back to Indiana. Does anybody think she hasn't transformed at all? Can you be loud? Loud.
She didn't really transform, and I think on the inside, as much as she was like changing for other people and changing like how she was for people to like her, she still felt like probably the same. Maybe there was a little bit of a personality difference when she came back because of Baby Gwen, but I still feel like she didn't really change that much at all.
Yeah.
She went back to eating her cookies.
She went back to her eating her cookies and her potato chips. Yeah. Does anybody think Lily is insecure?
Yes.
So what do I mean by insecure? I mean that she's not very comfortable with herself. But there's a moment in this story where she is absolutely comfortable with herself in the lake, right? Yeah. So sometimes, yeah. And sometimes in literature, when we're talking about transformations and rebirth, this concept of being either submerged in the ground or in water. So like in the Christian faith, when you are reborn, they baptize you in water. And so very often stories, and especially ones that are set in Christian settings, like this one, the concept of rebirth is submerging in water and then coming out. And so that is absolutely what she did in that lake. And I think one of the few truths that she told was that she was a good swimmer, right? She probably was a junior lifeguard. So one of the few things that she told that was real. So so when she was in that water, and she was weightless there too, right? So the insecurity she had about her body and her weight disappeared. Yeah, disappeared there, right? So she felt beautiful.
Actually, yeah, she enjoyed from being the lake. Somehow about the water, she somehow enjoyed from that, and she somehow destroyed the feeling of insecurity about herself. Yeah.
Yeah, I have what I wonder sometimes with this story is whether if she had stayed in Mississippi, if that transformation might have become more permanent, right? That feeling. And because certainly the lies that she was telling to make her sound like more than she was, were maybe becoming less necessary, right? She was becoming the person that she wanted to be. And when we look at how she idolized Baby Gwen, right? At least initially, I think became less so after that swim, right? That she could kind of feel better about her own self. So I think I like what Lucy said is kind of a transformation, right? There's some degree of it that has happened in genuinely, and it may be that, she's kind of back into her old habits in her old environment, but that there was a moment in time when she transformed, and hopefully that will come back. So, yeah. You hope she stops lying. Yeah, well, she's almost engaged to Fielding. One swim across the lake and they're engaged. Not sure that's going to happen. Yes, you may use the restroom. Okay, anybody else want to say anything? Anybody else in the room? Dawn, you want to say anything? You look like you want to.
Idea already been covered.
Your idea was already covered. Okay, if we look at this story as a hero's quest, let's talk about that for a second. and we go through the stages of the hero's quest, what would be the herald to Lily's call to adventure? What's the herald? The herald is the thing that starts her adventure.
Can I answer?
Yeah, Paula's gonna, yes, I'll give you a chance, Nazanin. Paula was gonna say something, so let's see if you guys have the same. Okay, so her parents telling her to move. Okay, Nazanin, do you want to add to that?
Actually, teacher, I think that when somehow her friend said to her that we would like to go to swim, and she said that I cannot do that. So we can say that her friend somehow was a reason that she wanted to go to the swim, and it is the thing that made her to somehow change. Yeah, made her to change. Yeah, somehow to go to the swim, and I think that her friend was so effective for her.
So fielding. So actually, that's a really interesting point, because I tend to think of the herald being earlier, like Paula, and to me it was, one possibility is the letter that they received saying come down and to Mississippi. But I kind of feel like you have a good point, Nazanin, because it really wasn't until that moment she went swimming that something really changed for her. So maybe it's not as early.
Yeah.
Maybe her quest didn't really start until that moment she felt better about herself, which was when she was invited to swim, right? And he's coming for me, and she was in the water. That's kind of an interesting point. I hadn't thought of that before. So I think you could argue either one of those is right. That's the nice thing about literature, is you can't really be wrong so long as you can support what you're saying. So I think that's a really interesting point. So you could choose either of those. If that's either one, what would be, if we talk about the journey, the obstacles, that road of trials, what obstacles is she facing in this quest to become and what is her treasure? Let's talk about that for a second. What do you think Lily's treasure is?
To be with Fielding.
Actually,
to be with Fielding. Okay, that's interesting. Anybody else? Nazanin loves it. Nazanin's into this story. I like it.
Actually, teacher, somehow the treasure that she wanted to discover is to somehow feel better and somehow be sure about herself. Yeah, she should somehow be sure about herself that she can do everything, like swimming. First of all, she somehow was not sure that will she able to swim in the Mississippi or not. But the treasure is like this, that she somehow was really good for swimming, and she enjoyed from swimming in the Mississippi, actually.
Yeah, okay, you could make that case. Anybody else? What do you think her treasure is, Sean?
Her treasure is experimenting. Maybe she's some kind of skills have improved. Like she's pretty good at lying.
Pretty good at lying. Her skills have improved. Yeah. How about just in a kind of a combination of feeling becoming somebody else, but I think that the person she thinks she wants to become, which is baby Gwen, right? That's what she thinks at the beginning. Ooh, this is the perfect person, and I'm gonna, is not ultimately what she realizes makes her feel better about herself, right? So I can see, and I think Fielding, that's a good answer too, because I think it gave her a goal in a way. Like Fielding was the inspiration for wanting to be somebody different. So I mean, perhaps wanting to be someone different, but maybe what she discovered in the end was that she had inside herself what she needed, right? And it doesn't have to come externally. And I don't know if she fully learned that lesson while she's sitting there watching her friend iron and wearing stinky perfume. I think that it was that moment though in the lake, right, where that happened. But whether she can recapture that now, eating potato chips and cookies. I don't know. I think, again, you could make a case for a variety of possibilities for what she was going for. You want to say something, Ben? No. Justin, any ideas? No? Okay. So here's a question. If you're looking at the idea of the journey, so the journey is the road of trials, right? What obstacles is she facing? So if we say that she's essentially trying to either impress Fielding or become somebody that she isn't, what obstacles is she facing in order to feel better about herself? Because I do think what she's trying to overcome essentially is her insecurity, right? So what obstacles is she facing in making that possible?
Teacher, do you think that she faced with any obstacle during the finding her treasure?
Yes, I do. I think she did face an obstacle. Think she faced any obstacles? What do you think her treasure is, Lucy? Because we've been talking about that. Not an easy answer, is it? Gain popularity? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. What do you think, Sean?
Or you think she kind of like it?
Yeah.
And there's something that can break.
That can break her.
That I would say that's what the obstacle.
Oh, that's a really good obstacle. So I don't know if you heard that. And Zura, I'll call on you one sec. What Sean suggested was one of the obstacles was when Fielding, when they went to breakfast and he told her she should lose 10 pounds, right? You know, and she's already got insecurities about her body, right? And then he tells her you'd be very beautiful if you lost 10 pounds. Yeah, oh good. I'm glad you're shaking your head, Sean, because you will never do that to some poor woman, will you? Zura, do you want to say something?
Yes, teacher. The obstacles she faced, that was, first of all, was the self-doubt, fear, and also wit that he said. Our classmate, what is his name?
His name is Sean. Yes.
Sean?
About what Fielding said. Yes. Sean.
So great.
Fielding's the guy. Yeah. Yeah, so you agree with what Sean said about, yeah, so it's her own self. I like your term self-doubt. I think that's very accurate. And the only time she did, yeah, and I think the only time she felt perfectly secure was when she was in the water. But self-doubt's very good, yeah. Anybody else want to comment? I think her obstacles, and I agree with the Fielding point, because it's still about her image of herself, right? So I think really her obstacles are primarily internal. Yes, Ali.
Okay, Miss. I think that the obstacle that she faces is uncertainty. She's not certain about her abilities, about the things that he can do. He wants to change herself, but the problem is that she is not certain about it. She's not sure that if she tries to do it, whether he can do it or not, she can do it or not, and that's I think can be the main point, because when she went to swimming and she found that she's a good swimmer, she thought about that maybe things that I think I cannot do it, maybe I would be able to do that, and maybe uncertainty about her abilities can be one of the obstacles that she faces. Thank you.
Yeah, yes, that's a good assessment. Yes, Nazanin.
Okay, yeah, teacher, actually, I agree with my classmates, and we can say that all of the time, the obstacles are not external, yeah? Most of the time they are internal, and actually, internal obstacles are difficult than external problems. So we can say that Lily, bad, or we can say a very terrible obstacle that it was internal and she could not believe herself. So we can say that the feeling of uncertainty, somehow it was really terrible. So she could overcome on that problem, and it's really amazing.
Yeah. What do you guys agree with that? That basically her obstacles mostly internal. Yeah. Okay. I would agree with that too. Has anybody ever been faced with self-doubt and uncertainty? Raise your hand. Yeah. Don't we all experience self-doubt and uncertainty? Yeah, we certainly, have a lot of our own to overcome, right? And so usually the first obstacle is so often ourselves, right? And yeah, so we're always on a quest. So okay, well that was really a good discussion. So let's do a little bit of writing about it by answering the questions. So I will send, and I know it's hard for you guys. I'm going to try and do my best to get the actual text to you because, it's a little bit hard, but you should be able to answer at least from your memory of what we've read and talked about the best you can. I understand that you don't have the text, so, that makes it harder. But I'm going to share I'm sorry, Fariba. Oops.
Just I said that, okay.
Okay. So I'm going to have you
Yes,
answer right. Yeah.
Can you send a screenshot or something like you can take photo because the story is so
Yes.
interesting and I want to have it and read it with myself too.
Oh, you do? Okay. I will. Yes, I'm going to do my best to try and get it to you. And what I might do, it might be easiest if I do it through the chat and send you pages through the chat, kind of one at a time, because then maybe they'll sync on your end better. Okay. What I'm going to do though is,
what about the PDF teacher?
Oh, Karishma still
What
can't.
about the PDF?
Yeah, hold on. I'm trying to get Karishma on here. Karishma, request to join.
The teacher today, I helped her to be in team, but actually she's not able to join you here.
I don't know why. I'm calling her right now. Oh, there she
Yeah,
might. There she is.
Here.
Oh, good. She's on. A little late for our story, but at least she's on. Maybe we'll get on for history. That'd be good. Okay, so I'm gonna be quiet and I'm going to send the pictures to you of the story as best I can, and hopefully they'll come through. I'm going to send it in the Teams chat, so they should pop up for people that are online. Who's the writer is Ellen Gilchrist. I'm gonna try and find a Ellen. What? Yeah, Ellen is her name. Isn't that nice? That's why I like this story, because Ellens are really smart. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to first. I'm going to actually stop recording here. I've recorded this class and yesterday's, and I will have it uploaded to YouTube so that if you want to hear me read the story again when you have it, then you can do that. Okay. So I've recorded the class. Hold on me.
Okay.
Okay. So for you guys at home here, or in class here, the questions I want you to answer are at the bottom. Yeah.